you saw this slide, all these different icons, all the different vendors. This is what they're trying to promise us, that SDN is going to help us solve our everyday nightmare and try to harmonize the whole thing. Well, the problem is that for network engineers, they usually come up with solutions that are very siloed. They all usually focus in addressing only what they've got and try to bring networking, programmability on their own kit. So it's shifting the problem. It's not solving the problem, because we all want best of breed. We all want like all these different vendors in our network. And now we had all these different vendors where we had to tackle all the different CLI memory and all that, and then it's all shifted. It's now all these controllers from all these different vendors, and you still have all these different vendors to automate. The other problem is for the network engineers. Once the network, architects have carved out a very complex network and they have to turn this to operations, well, look at what the tools that these network operators got. This is usually very generic. This is like SNMP-based type monitoring, like normal monitoring. It's not shaped to the particular solution that they have to monitor. Take an SD-WAN, a solution. They are interested in looking at the performance of an application. Look at a voice network. Well, they'd like to see how the conversations are ongoing, if the video conferencing is just like fluid and that there are no problem. Well, if you look at the tools that they've got today, they've got generic tools that are not focused on what they want. Plus, look at the vendors. Usually they try to tackle the giants, the big vendors of the markets with just like a niche, and they do very well. And when they're successful, they expand, and they do more. And you end up with this nice UI, nice dashboard that's got everything. So it might be a very great UI, but it's like super rich. And you're, for instance, the voice guy, or you're, the security guy. Well, take one particular, vendor here that is doing, firewalling, server load balancing and wireless controllers in all the same box, but they don't care about the wireless part. They want to have the interface focus on what they want. So that's the problem of the ops engineer. And for the development, these guys, they're developers. They're not network engineers. So the same way that network engineers are afraid to go into the development world because it's a completely different world. It's got a whole bunch of other methodologies and toolkits and ways to do their job. Same for the development people. They don't know about our job. They don't know about networking. And it's very hard to try to turn them into network engineers. So this is our journey. Our journey is trying to go somewhere. You need to create this production network, and you got all these different vendors that you have to juggle with. And what do? We lock ourselves in a lab, and we try to come up with this particular, design, and we spend weeks, months, if we need to. I mean, look at how complex could be an SD-WAN. Look at how complex it is to spawn a full branch in a big organization. No, you just don't have, Cisco. You don't have just Riverbed for one. I mean, you have a lot of everything, and you lock yourself, out in a room, and then what you have to do is that at the end, you're very happy. You said, great, I'm a great network engineer, I'm a great network architect, and now you need to pass this to the ops engineer. And again, they don't have any kits, any tool that is really helping them to really address or take care of that network. Even before they have to operate this network, just talk deployment. How do they deploy that network? You spend like 8 months, carving this very nice SD-WAN architecture, and now you need to give this to the operators and say, oh, by the way, we've got 4,000 branches. Let's deploy that now. This is very difficult. Are you going to ship every single operator in every site? I say that, but this is basically what is happening today. You are shipping all these engineers on site to solve these kind of problems. So you try to make this a little bit more pretty with the development, with a development team that would know about scripting. But again, these guys are not network engineers. You still need the expert to carve out these blocks of CLI, right? So This slide will summarize, what we know as network engineers and what a developer would be able to do here. And, they know how to code. We have the network expertise. Well, turning one into the other, there's all this fear, uncertainty and doubt, all this FUD around. And ideally, what you like to have is this guy that knows about everything, this full stack engineer. But these guys, there's not a lot of them that are around. I mean, just go and try to go on Craigslist and try to say, hey, I'm hiring any full stack engineer. They're not going to be knocking at your door. It's just very, very rare. So there's a way to address this problem, and this is what we came up with this vendor agnostic modeling. So ideally, what you would like to have, and that's the left side of this this slide, is that you want to be able to model a feature. You want to be able to stop looking at the box as being the target box as being a kind of this monolithic big configuration of CLI that you have to deal with. You like to see it as a container of features that you can consume. Yes, I want quads. Yes, I want zone-based firewalling. No, I don't want this. No, I don't want that. Like you can entertain, and choose what you would like to see in these boxes. So you need to be able to capture, all these different features separately. Most importantly, some vendors share the same concept. Look at switches. Even compare a campus switch and a data center switch. They all have VLANs. Okay, a VLAN is a VLAN. For all the vendors, a VLAN is a VLAN. Spanning tree is spanning tree. That's the same. So what do we do? In the old world, we carve out the CLI for spanning tree for Cisco. We cover some spanning tree for Arista. Bad example because they're very alike. But try to other vendors. That's the same. You have to come up with the same CLI each time. Why don't you just have something that will allow you to do this once? And you explain, you teach an engine, this is what a VLAN is. And this is how you attach it to an interface, etc. Right? So you would like to do this in a very small number of lines. Oh, we all here experts at scripting, and we all, did this once. We got this 20 lines of CLI to produce, and then we're going to go script, and we end up with 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 lines of scripting. Yeah, we made it work, for sure. Hey, yes, I can check. I can go on my resume and say, yes, I can script. I did this once. But at the end of the day, look at the ratio. You produce 10,000 lines of scripting for just 20 lines of CLI. Not very, very efficient. So what if you could have a language that gives you 1 line of scripting, gives you 1 line of CLI, or 1 REST call? That would be what would be ideal. Here, we've always been saving configs, archiving configs. Well, guess what? As soon as you've archived it, it's out of date. You know what? Because in the meantime, someone went in the box and made a change. Too late. It's out of date. So you want an engine that is able to understand what's already in there. So that when you go and you do an assessment, and you have a model that we develop here of all these different features and have them in the target box, you want them in the system. You want them in the system, and you don't want to worry on what's already out there, what state it is. You want the engine to be able to figure out the state of the box and deliver that model. And you want the approach to be declarative, right? If there's already 4, 5, 6 in the box, and the model says, I want 1, 2, 3, look at the load and pray approach of sending a block of CLI, previous method, right? You just send 1, 2, 3. You're going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was already 4, 5, 6 in the box. Well, if you have a declarative approach, you focus on saying the model is 1, 2, 3. This is the only thing I want, and so the engine will say, the model says 1, 2, 3. I see also 4, 5, 6. I'm going to remove it. And you don't have to worry about it. And so here, this thing here is very important. We're always waiting for the vendors to serve us better. Do they give us a REST API or an SDK? Oh, yes. Most of the time, they give you something either super huge that is very difficult to use. I mean, some SDK are so big as thousands of pages, and you're trying to find only the calls that you need. And when you look at some others focus in just taking the box from marketing and sales standpoint. Do you have an, we gave you a REST API. Can you use it every day for what you want to do? No. No, but they check the box, yeah, for sure, yes, they give it to you, but you can't do anything with it. Or there are vendors that do not tackle that problem at all. And so you're waiting, are they going to come up with, some sort of REST API or, whatever SDK, no, and you're waiting. So this is intended to break this, where you are back in control, and you can create that level of programmability on whatever kit underneath, CLI-based, REST-based, whatever, and you create that layer. So either you have the one from the vendor and you can extract and only focus on the calls you need. Out of the 10,000 one you only want 5. Or you can create a way to programmatically approach the CLI box that has no programmable layer at all. So this is what we launched 1 or 2 months ago with the dynamic NDK. It's to give you the control to very, very rapidly model these network concepts and be able to address these boxes in a programmable way. So this is basically an overview of where we sit and how we I don't like to use this word, but this is describing very well where we sit. It's kind of we're in the middle of all this, kind of a middleware. And this is all the vendors that we approach. And I will be talking about this piece here because this is very important. It's not just about validating that you can talk to a box or another. This is us capturing the semantic and the syntax of every single box. So you don't need to worry about the target language. So you can write a story, and not worry about if it needs to be translated in French, in English, or in German. They all speak different languages. You want to model once. So it's like having a storyboard where you can tell the story of the Little Red Riding Hood, right? You just say, oh, there's a forest, a tree, a basket with food in it, a wolf, a grandma, that's it. And then the engine will translate this in the right language at rendering time, right? So we integrate with all these different monitoring platforms, and our platform is completely REST-based. So how do we do this? So we have 2 components. We have lab and control. So control, remember I said that now you can contemplate your node as being a container of all these different features that you'd like to consume. So here, control is where you consume these features. You can consume them at scale. That's why control is here. That's the operators that work here, and they can have, they can be in charge of deploying policies, altering policies, and this is where they choose which model, which features to deploy. But where do they appear, these features? Well, this is here at the create part. We've got lab, and lab is where you create and where you elaborate the features. So the architects spend their time on lab. This is everything that controls got in a rich application that allows them to be in a lab and work out all the dependencies in between the features, test that what they've built is correct. And when they're happy, when it's prime time, they send it, to control here for deploying all these different features. So the way we deploy all these different features, we support all these approaches to get the life cycle easier. From rollback control, from being able to have this one interface in control with all the different policies, so it's all centralized for all the different vendors. And yes, we announce on-prem. This is very important as well, because some customers have regulations and they want to. They cannot use cloud-based, and so yes, it simplifies managing the management of your network. And so I said zero touch, but everything that I've just told you, you want to do this on existing kit. You don't want to have specific kit where you can have all this power, but only on specific kit. And so we address brownfield, and we don't need an agent to do that. Right? We use what the box got. You don't need to enhance it. We just use whatever box, from a very small 800, a Cisco 800, to a powerful Nexus, or to a Cisco ACI. We support of that, right? And we're model driven. I'll show you this in a little bit later. And of course, because it's model driven, then the model is the model. So if you've got something that allows you to deploy a model, then that accelerates your changes and be more flexible and responds to your business lights quicker.